AI. Seems like it's everywhere you turn these days, right?
Yeah, it's definitely having a moment.
But it's actually more than just like a passing trend. What we're seeing with things like large language models, LLMs, and agentic AI is, well, it's starting to have a real impact, on how things actually work across a bunch of different industries.
It's a genuine shift, I think.
For sure. And that's actually a big part of what we're diving into today. We've been looking at this really interesting perspective from someone with over 20 years in the world of QA. Their argument, and it's a pretty strong one, is that this whole AI surge isn't just another step in, the tech evolution.
It's more fundamental than that.
Exactly. They're basically saying that AI is reshaping how we need to think about quality in software and just in general, really.
Yeah, I could see that.
And what's cool is that this perspective is relevant, whether you're like a hardcore techie or you're just starting to notice AI kind of creeping into the tools you use every day. So for this deep dive, we're going to be pulling insights from this QA expert's work. They talk about everything from SaaS applications to some of those more traditionally safe sectors like banking, finance, insurance, BFSI, and even healthcare.
Right, those areas that people usually think of as moving a little slower.
Exactly. But what they're arguing is that AI integration isn't some far-off thing. It's already happening. So we want to unpack what that means for anyone out there listening, especially if you're involved in QA or really any field where quality and reliability are super important.
Makes sense.
So we'll look at the challenges, yeah, but also those exciting new opportunities and really what it takes to not just survive, but to really thrive in this new AI-driven world.
It's about more than just knowing what AI is, right? It's about understanding how it's changing the game and what that means for the people who make sure things actually work.
Okay, so let's jump right in. Our QA expert kicks things off by talking about what they call this seismic shift. They're basically saying that the changes we're seeing with AI are actually bigger than some of those other major tech leaps we've seen.
Like what?
Like, going from waterfall to agile development, or when everyone started automating their testing.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they argue that it's not just a difference in degree, but a difference in kind.
Okay, I'm curious. What makes them say that?
Well, one of the big things is this whole rise of agentic AI. So think about traditional software. It basically sits there waiting for you to tell it what to do.
Right.
Agentic AI, on the other hand, it can set its own goals and figure out how to reach them.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's this whole shift from reactive tools to proactive problem solvers, and that's what's really shaken things up, especially for things like SaaS applications.
I see what you mean about a seismic shift.
And the really interesting thing is how this is even impacting sectors that have traditionally been, well, maybe a bit slower to adopt new tech.
Like the BFSI and Healthcare examples we mentioned.
Exactly. What our source is saying is that even in those traditionally, quote, stable areas, AI-powered innovation is heating up the competition.
Yeah, it's definitely not business as usual anymore.
Definitely not. And you see this with like the rise of fintech startups, but even the bigger players are getting in on the action. They're using AI to do things like real-time fraud detection, or they're building banking interfaces that like personalize themselves to each user.
And in healthcare, you've got AI doing predictive analytics, catching potential health risks way earlier than before. It's really impressive stuff.
It's a whole new level, isn't it? And the point our source makes is that if QA professionals don't adapt, they risk becoming, and I'm quoting here, relics.
Ooh.
It's harsh, but it really gets the point across that this is something they need to pay attention to, like now.
It's definitely a wake-up call, but honestly, I think it's also super exciting. The whole thing, the text actually shifts pretty quickly from like the scary stuff to framing it all as a huge opportunity.
I'm glad you see it that way because that's really the key takeaway. It's not about being replaced by machines. It's about how QA folks can use their skills in this new world.
Totally. It's about learning, unlearning, and relearning. Constantly. That's the name of the game now.
Absolutely. So let's get into some of the specific areas where QA pros need to focus their energy. The first one is all about embracing the AI learning curve.
Meaning what, exactly?
It's not enough to just know that AI exists. They really need to understand how it works at a fundamental level. Like, how do LLMs actually process information and generate those human-like responses? And what does agentic AI really mean in practice?
I get it. It's like if you're going to test and assure the quality of something, you need to understand what's going on under the hood.
Exactly. And the author makes it really clear this isn't just a nice-to-have skill anymore. It's becoming mission-critical because we're moving from applications that just have AI features to applications that are AI native. Like, AI is baked into the core of how they work.
Oh, wow, that's a big difference. So basically, understanding AI isn't optional anymore for QA. It's like how knowing the basics of programming became a must-have, as life work got more complex.
Exactly. And once you have that understanding, you've got to rethink how you approach testing. Traditionally, testing has been deterministic. You give the system a specific input and you expect a specific output.
Right. Nice and predictable.
But AI systems, especially those LLMs, they're probabilistic. You give them the same input, and you might get different outputs each time. There's that inherent randomness.
So how do you even test that? Our traditional pass-fail idea doesn't really work anymore.
That's the challenge. The text suggests that we need to start measuring statistical confidence instead of just looking for a simple yes or no.
Statistical confidence. So, like, how likely is it that the AI will give a good answer, even if it's not always the exact same answer?
Exactly, and that means we need new frameworks and new metrics. Instead of aiming for one perfect output, we need to define a range of acceptable outputs.
I like that. It's like accepting that there's going to be some variability, but setting boundaries for what's reasonable.
Right, and the source actually lays out some specific testing concepts that are really relevant here. One is ensemble testing, where you run the same test multiple times and analyze the range of outputs.
Ah, so you get a better sense of the AI's overall consistency, not just its performance on a single run.
Yep. Then there's this idea of establishing tolerance ranges, basically defining what level of variation is acceptable based on what the AI is doing in the context.
Interesting. So it's not about being perfect. It's about being reliable within certain limits.
Right, and there are some even more specific techniques that QA folks should be looking into. Things like prompt engineering, which is all about crafting those instructions to get the AI to do what you need it to do for testing.
Makes sense. And for those who work with really complex AI models, there's stuff like Monte Carlo simulation.
Oh yeah, that's for when you're dealing with a lot of probability and randomness. And then there's understanding things like OODA loops, which can help you predict how an agentic AI will behave. It's like a whole new toolbox for QA. For sure. And the big takeaway here is that those old school scripted test cases, they just don't cut it anymore. You need these new techniques to really evaluate how reliable, how consistent, and how robust these AI systems are.
Agreed. It's a whole new way of thinking about testing.
Absolutely. And another thing our source stresses is the need for QA professionals to upskill in data science.
Data science.
Yeah. Because think about it, data is like the fuel that powers these AI systems. They learn from massive data sets.
Right. So if the data is bad, the AI is going to be bad.
Exactly. So QA folks need to get comfortable with validating data, making sure it's good quality and structured properly. And they need to know how to spot data drift, which is when the characteristics of the data change over time.
So the AI might start making bad decisions because the data it's using is no longer relevant.
Precisely. And that's super important, especially in fields like healthcare and finance, where the data is so sensitive. You don't want an AI making a medical diagnosis based on bad data, right?
No way. And think about financial transactions. Data integrity is everything for things like fraud detection and risk assessment.
Absolutely. So QA's role in making sure the data behind the AI system is solid, that's becoming even more important.
I'm seeing a pattern here. It's like everything QA does is getting amplified in this AI world.
You got it. And the last big point our source makes is about collaboration. They say those traditional silos between teams, they just won't work anymore.
What do they mean by silos?
Like, developers over here, QA over there, data scientists off in their own corner. That's got to change.
So more collaboration, more communication.
Exactly. QA needs to be working closely with the data scientists, building those AI models, with the machine learning engineers who are deploying them, and of course with the product owners who have the vision for the whole thing.
Right. And don't forget compliance teams, especially in those regulated industries.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So it's really about breaking down those barriers and building those strong relationships. Developers will always play a huge role, making sure the code functions properly, what our source calls vibe coding, but
QA brings that big picture perspective. They see how everything fits together from the user's point of view.
Yep, and that's critical for making sure these AI-driven products are actually reliable and enjoyable to use.
It's like a team effort where everyone have their own unique piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. Now, our source doesn't sugarcoat things. They're very clear that the stakes are high with all this AI stuff happening so fast. But they also leave us with a really hopeful message. If QA pros embrace this whole learn-it-all mindset, they can not only survive, but thrive.
It's about being adaptable and curious.
Totally. Like that quote from Alvin Toffler, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn.
It's about being willing to let go of old ways of doing things and embrace the new.
Absolutely. And that's what will make all the difference in this AI-powered future. So to wrap things up, we've seen that AI isn't just changing the game for QA, it's demanding a complete evolution. It's about continuous learning, rethinking how we test, understanding data science, and collaborating more effectively.
And for those who step up to the challenge, there are some amazing opportunities out there.
For sure. And as you continue on your own journey to becoming AI ready, here's one last thought to ponder. In a world increasingly driven by these probabilistic AI systems, how do we even define quality? And what role will you play in shaping that new understanding? It's a big question, but it's one worth thinking about.
It's a question for all of us, really.